You guys all set?
Yep. I'm
Yes,
going
hoping
on
my
one.
computer doesn't die again.
All right,
Electronics hate me. All right.
let's go and do it.
We're online, it appears.
Let me bring it up really quick. All right. Welcome to your daily. Shit. Thought I had it.
The illusion of a perfect
Yep.
podcast
Yeah,
is
I
ruined
know.
for you.
I know. I thought I had it clear in my head, and then I butchered it. Okay. Welcome to your weekly dose of geek. This is the Making Geeks podcast for makers, families, and geeks. Hope everybody's doing well. And we have a special guest on the show today. We have Grant from Dadcrafted.
What's up, everybody?
Yay!
What's up?
Yeah, it's good to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah. I think we've all been a fan of your work for quite a while now, so it kind of makes sense we'd have you on the show. You seem to check all the boxes for what we're all about on the show.
Yeah.
So what's everybody been up to this week before we get into all the other stuff?
I've been 3D printing a lot. I've been trying to work on the Gatekeeper droid. That's from Jabba's Palace / The Mandalorian. The one that is like at the end of a stick that comes out when C-3PO knocks on the door. Starts arguing with him to let him in. That thing is a lot bigger than I thought it was going to be. Did I say this last week? Maybe yeah. It's still as big as it was last week. I'm coming to the realization that it might be too big for my application, where it's like screen accuracy isn't necessarily applicable in all circumstances, I should say.
You're dealing with scale, so
Yeah. I don't have a giant giant wall like Jabba's Palace does that I'm hoping to put it on. So and it doesn't look as big on screen, but I guess that's movie magic for you. It's about as big as like a cantaloupe, maybe bigger for just the head part of it. That's gonna be on like maybe an extending arm. I'm not sure the mechanics. We've been discussing this with some other people that are local to me now, and other fellow makers, and like how I'm gonna actually pull it off. I'm not exactly sure, but I've just been kind of cobbling all the pieces together and starting to glue them up and sand them and that sort of thing. So I've been busy with that, and I've been 3D printing some stuff with my resin printer. I've been working on a Rocket Raccoon statue that I bought on Patreon, and it's actually coming together pretty well. If you check my Instagram, you'll be able to see it, but I'm just trying to use my resin printer a lot more. Here's the base of it here, as I'm showing on the screen. It's kind of hard to tell because my camera sucks at focusing, but there's like a magazine, or of is that the right terminology? A belt. Let's just say a belt of ammo that he would like use in like a chain gun kind of thing.
How many pieces does it take to put it all together?
That's a great question. I probably should have looked into that before I started printing it. But it's probably around 15 to 20, I would say, and I've done 3 of them so far. I've done like the bigger ones, I think. But they've been coming out really great. His teeth are like super sharp. I actually broke one of his incisors off trying to get the support material out of his mouth, which is a pain in the ass. So I'm gonna have to like rebuild one of those teeth with some super glue and baking soda. I think I'll use, but it's been fun. I keep forgetting how amazing that printer is, considering how cheap it was.
Was that the Anycubic Photon, I think it was?
Yep.
Is that right?
Yep, Anycubic Photon. Have any of you guys messed with resin printing?
I have one coming in soon, so I'll be able to finally get my hands on one.
I see it back there.
I got one sitting there, and I have not turned it on yet.
Poser.
I know. I'm a little scared. I don't know. I don't have a model to print yet, so
The intimidation factor is just too great at the moment.
It kind of is.
I remember these discussions now that you're. I believe we communicated about this printer in the past. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. I've had it for not quite a month. It hasn't been a full month yet, but at least it's out of the box. I've read the user manual. You know.
We'll have to find a good model for
This
you
week.
to print.
This week.
There you go. Before the next appearance on our podcast. You have homework.
Throw down the gauntlet. There you
Yep,
go.
that'd be good.
The Eiffel Tower seems to be a popular first print for those kind of printers.
So you Donovan, what have you been up to?
Everything and all at once. I've been crazy busy. I've got a video that's coming out tomorrow for my Borderlands style cows. While I'm doing that, I'm also starting on my next project. I've got 2 projects that I'm planning on that I'm doing the prep work for. I have a video that I shot for a circus troupe over the past month that I'm trying to edit and get a trailer done for by this weekend. It's my birthday this weekend. I'm trying to get the doghouse done this weekend. I'm doing it all at once.
Living the dream.
So I have a quick question for you about the cows, if you're willing to answer. Otherwise, I guess I'll just wait
go
for
for
the
it.
video. But what are they? Are they just like a model that you painted? Are they?
Yeah, so they're one of those prizes you get in a kid's Chick-fil-A, because at Chick-fil-A they don't have toys, they have like educational things, whether it's like books or games you play together as a family or stuff like that. It's not just like toys for toys' sake. There's always some added either educational or instructional element to it. And these ones were about painting. And so it came with a blank cow, kind of like the ceramic figures you would find in a craft store that you can like paint. But they were the Chick-fil-A cows, and they came with little colors that you can paint it with. But my kids never painted any of them. And so we had a few of them laying around the house, and I was putting together plans for turning my computer into a Borderlands style computer and taking all of my power tools, because I have like 7 different brands of power tools, and people are very brand loyal in the maker space, and I can't afford to be, so I just have whatever I can afford. And so I figured, instead of like having like allegiance to a particular brand, I'll just paint all of my power tools like Borderlands guns, so that they're not branded, but they're kind of branded. They're my brands because they're unique and geeky and whatever. But I was so nervous about trying cell shading, because that's an art style that I've never tried before. And so I wanted a way to practice, and I picked up one of the cows one day. They were just laying around the house, and I was like, I have a whole stack of like multicolored Sharpies. These would be perfect to practice on. So I just started drawing on one, and it worked great. And I'm like, well, let's make a video out of it. It's cheesy. There's no point to this other than me just practicing cell shading on a Chick-fil-A Borderlands cow. But I tried to make the video as fun as I could. So we'll see how well that works out.
My week has been pretty uneventful. I'm trying to take a look at my plan of videos and figure out what's going to work best in the couple weeks before the end of the school year. And then I'll probably save a lot of my bigger projects for the summer at this point, because I only have about 5 weeks left, I think, before we go into summer break. So hoping that I can at least get one video out within that time. Things have been kind of slow around here lately, but hopefully we get some of that motivation back up as the weather gets a little bit warmer here.
Summer break. What are you going to do with all that time? Whew.
I wish it felt that. I wish it felt that way. I usually end up working through most of summer break and trainings and other things that go on. So it's not as glamorous and free as it sounds. So the grass is not always greener, Donovan. And then, of course, it's going to be turning over to our guest, who I think I want to give a proper introduction to the audience and not be familiar with you or your work. How would you describe what you do, Grant?
Well, like you said earlier, it's probably right up your guys' alley. dad stuff. So I do a lot of geeky things, or at least that's what I've been doing recently. But I kind of created my YouTube channel and my website. It's been like 2.5 years ago, based on just stuff that I could do that was, dad related, and whether that was like geek stuff that I like to build for my kids or for myself, or just woodworking, just plain old woodworking, house stuff. I had the idea that, I could make videos based on just simple DIY home repairs, because that's what dads do, sort of thing. So that was kind of the intention behind the channel, and it's something that, I wish I would have started a long time ago, because I live in Iowa. I live in Winterset, Iowa, which is like southwest of Des Moines. But we bought an old house that's like, I'm in the basement, so I've got these old stone walls, but this house was built in 1897, and we pretty much like gutted the whole thing, and rebuilt it. But I wish I would have started the channel when we bought the house, because it's like there was so much content I could have done. But anymore, I just pretty much do whatever I want to, and mainly that involves a lot of Star Wars stuff, Legend of Zelda stuff, probably going to do some Harry Potter stuff fairly soon, because the kids are at that age, but all kinds of things.
1897. So is it like fabric lined copper wiring and?
Yeah, a lot of it's been replaced, because the house has been torn apart and kind of rebuilt, but I know that there's probably still some electrical that needs redone, and that's outside of my pay grade.
I just recently watched your video where you put the carpet runner on the stairs, and I got to see the staircase, and I could tell that house has some history, because the staircase is gorgeous. And every time I see somebody else's house that is not on the West Coast, I get jealous, because the housing here is boring, extremely boring. My house was built in like 1984. It has no character at all. It feels like the only character I could bring to it is something that I hang on the wall. It's there's really nothing exciting about the house. When I see other people's houses, especially as they're a little bit older, it's really cool. Although the first house I ever rented was probably almost 100 years old, but even still here on the West Coast, it's still fairly boring. The only interesting thing about it is I had a cellar, because it was part of a small farm. So, but yeah, that's nothing compared to what you have there.
If you live in Iowa, like everybody's got a basement here, it's pretty much standard. But this is kind of like our thing, my wife and I anyway. Like we bought, we had an apartment when we got married, but when we lived in Des Moines, we bought an old house in the Beaverdale residence, which is just kind of outside of downtown. But like, we bought a house that had been on the market for like 6 months that nobody else wanted. And when we walked through, it's like wallpaper everywhere. And to a lot of people that looks like work, but we're just like, it's just work. You just take down wallpaper. Like you get a steamer, and it's really not that difficult. It's just time, tedious stuff that's not really fun, but put on some music. And that's, that was this house too. Like the people, not the people that had it before us, but the people that had it, the previous owners before that, they'd owned it for like 15 years, and the guy had spent like all this time like restoring it and putting up wallpaper and making it look Victorian. And we pretty much like undid all that. So he probably wouldn't be happy if you walked through what we've done to the house since then, but
Yeah, that's so cool.
So what have been some of your favorite things that you've made so far for your channel?
I don't know. I've liked the stuff I've done in the last year, like, which probably hasn't been as popular on my YouTube channel anyway. I'm a big Star Wars fan. My wife's probably not, but my boys love Star Wars and I love Star Wars. So, some of the stuff that we've done recently, and just having like the 3D printer, I got one of those, about a year ago, right after the pandemic started. Kind of hear the stuff about like the mask shortage and whatnot. So I was like, well, if I get one, I could probably just print face shields or masks or something. And then, so I got on Amazon, and it was like $230 for an Ender 3 or something at the time. I have no idea what they are now. But got one of those, and my brother got one like a week after I did. and we just started, like, both our wives work for hospitals, so we just started printing face shields like crazy. But then that kind of, within a month, that kind of caught up where they were like, we don't need anything anymore. So then it kind of sat for a few weeks, and I was like, somebody, Thingiverse found all kinds of, toys and knickknacks to print, and then it just became like a whole different hobby that I didn't even think was something I probably would ever do or be able to do. But it's like, with that price point, like, anybody can do this, and it's not, there's tinkering involved. Sorry, Donovan, I don't want to.
I was trying not to say anything.
I don't want to say anything about your 3D printing experience, but I've had problems. I don't want to make it sound like it's the easiest thing in the world. Like, I've swore at that machine a lot. I've almost thrown it out a couple times, but luckily I've had fairly decent success, and I've only had to replace like the nozzle and the tubing and things like that. Nothing major, but doing like the Mandalorian helmets that I've got a video out where I printed Mandalorian helmets for the boys on that little Ender 3. I found one on Thingiverse that's like basically 6 different pieces, and then epoxied everything together, and then we did like a fiberglass resin that we bought at like O'Reilly's Auto Parts. That's filled the inside, so it kind of solidified things, and then a bunch of the spot putty tried to cover the seams. I didn't do a very good job when I glued everything up, and then I could have done a lot more sanding, but I really don't like sanding. So and the kids were like, we want it weathered, we want to make it look beat up. So since they didn't care, it didn't have to look like the Beskar helmet from the Mandalorian. So sure. I was like, good enough. And then we painted. They kind of both picked their paint styles, what colors they wanted, what design they wanted. They kind of drew it out, and then I did all the work. But that was a fun one. They both, they turned out great. They fit them perfect. They can like run laps, and they don't wobble on their head. So,
well, you also did a Sabine helmet, didn't you?
No, it kind of looks like Sabine's. I stole some of the design, like the wings on the side that she's got on hers, but it's the same like Mandalorian helmet. But one of my boys wanted it red, black, and gray, and I just kind of took some of the elements and then painted it on there. I hand painted everything, and then my other kid wanted it to kind of look like Boba Fett's, but he wanted lightning bolts. So
yeah, the getting clean seams on those is a lot harder. And I learned that when I did the He-Man sword that I did. Printed like 7 different parts. And it's a lot of work to get those together.
Yeah. Well, and I think Donovan, I was messaging you at the time about you were trying to make one too. And I was like, I think I sent you the model where I was like, use this one and it'll actually print without supports. And I thought it was going to kind of bend a little bit, but it glued up pretty darn close. Like, it didn't really sag or anything. My brother printed on his printer. He's got a better one than I do, than the Ender 3. Like, it prints way faster. Like, when I put that model in there with supports just for the one kind of corner piece of the helmet, it was going to be like 36 hours or something.
Whoa.
And I don't have a lot of success with anything that goes that long. Like, usually something will catch, and then
bird's nest.
It's too depressing when you have something go that long. And you're just start over.
Yep.
I've seen people that have printed like the entire helmet, like adult full-size helmet, in one print, and I'm just like, that's great.
A lot of people do that on the CR10 because it has the bigger vertical in order to do it. I think it has a bigger plate too. But yeah, you were saying before, like the frustration of the printer. I have the Creality. I have the Ender 3 too. And I don't know how many hours into calibrating it just to make sure that I can get a good first layer print now. And I have it dialed in now to where I don't need a raft anymore too. But it's worth it, especially for a printer at that price point. So I'd still recommend it to people. Sorry, Donovan, once again.
I'm trying not to say anything. You guys are bringing it up. I'm trying to sit here and show my support, just silently nodding. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So aside from Star Wars, is there anything else that you kind of like to explore in terms of making and doing?
Like I said, I kind of do anything. I've been on a Star Wars kick lately for whatever reason, and I've kind of decided maybe I should probably switch gears. I just finished that thing to try and prepare for this podcast.
Well, explain what that thing is, because that's kind of an under that thing.
It's cool.
Super cool.
Well,
That's
it's
thing.
earlier today.
I needed something that, well, not just for this podcast. I started that 2 months ago. I didn't just build that in a few days, but I wanted something for down here because I thought, like, if I do a podcast or if I do like a vlog of my own or just like voiceover where I stick my head in a video, I kind of wanted something that looked kind of cool in the back. It's not as cool as originally I had in my mind when I started it, but it's all
for
right.
those listening in the car, what is it behind you?
It's like 2 foot by 4 foot pegboard that I painted to look like Star Wars. But then it's got a big Rebel insignia, and I kind of looked at X-Wing pictures and tried to, just took inspiration from that and draw different designs on it. So it's all painted up. But then I framed the whole thing out with basically 1x4s or 1x7s so that it's got a frame around it, and then the lights it's probably even hard to tell in the video, but the lights are kind of recessed inside the frame and shine onto the pegboard. And then there's a shelf across the top and then some cubbies on the sides, just mainly so I could like put some of my knick-knack crap on display that my wife won't let me put on the mantle on the fireplace, I've got my Lego Yoda back there in the middle. Prized possession. I've got my little Breath of the Wild Guardian 3D print up there.
Yeah.
That guy's pretty cool. My Yoda that I bought 20 years ago or something. So, the stuff I have to keep in the basement.
Those seem like mantle-worthy objects to me.
Yeah, I know. I did have Yoda upstairs for a while, but she eventually said it's enough. It's gotta go.
Now, didn't you already also 3D print pieces to put on it? Or was that a different project where you had like little tubing pieces and
my Star Wars miter saw station was the one I kind of did tons of greeblies, and that was like the project or video that almost broke me this winter because I started that thing last summer. So there's actually 3 parts on my YouTube channel. I think it's my last 3 videos. But I built a miter saw station, and I kind of modeled it after like Bob's from I Like to Make Stuff, where he did a hood. His was much bigger. He had like a built-in so you cut longboards easier. Mine's kind of more of a stand-up, almost like an arcade cabinet, basically. But I copied his design in that I had a removable front panel from the hood where I glued epoxied in magnets so that if you still want to do compound miter cuts on the miter saw, you can still do that. But yeah, the rest, I was like, I don't want to just make another piece of shop furniture out of plywood and just stain it golden oak or something, It's like, why don't I make it look like something out of Star Wars? So I printed a bunch of greeblies, and that Rebel insignia that's on behind me, I basically hand drew like a template out of MDF and cut it out on the scroll saw. And I kept it so that if I want to make more Rebel signs, I can do that.
Really cool.
But I did weathering, I did dust collection, I did 3D printing. Like there's all kinds of components, so that video, like when I first threw everything in there, it was like, I don't even know, 2 hours, 300 clips, something stupid that it was just like, I can't make one video out of this. So I turned it into 3 and broke it into like chapters that kind of made sense. So there's one that kind of just talks about general construction and how I did the hood, and there's another that talks about the greeblies and the weathering techniques that I did, and then the last one's more kind of focused on the dust collection and the actual how I did the windows for the hood and everything. So
came out
it was
cool.
fun,
I like it.
but it was a lot of work. And if you like watch the video, you can tell like I was wearing shorts because it was last summer, and I finally just put the videos out in the last couple months. But it gave me something to do this winter when I didn't want to go in the shop because it was, 0 and snowing all the time here.
Is your shop in the basement?
No, this is just like where I keep my 3D printer. And I just, in the winter I will come down here and do glue ups and things, but I have a detached garage that is not heated yet. For the last 3 years I've said, going to do that, and I haven't done that. So I've got it. when we bought the house, it was nothing. Like there was no drywall, insulation, anything. It was just, there was a workbench and bare walls. So I've insulated all the walls. I put up drywall. I did all the mudding and sanding myself. I painted everything. I put up French cleat walls, so that everything's lined with French cleats, so I can hang whatever I want to anywhere. And the last couple of years, I've slowly been doing the ceiling with OSB and putting insulation up there. I'm about 3/4 of the way done, and I didn't get it done before winter last year. So, you know, I thought I was going to do it, and then I got sidetracked where my buddy was like, dude, you're going to have to hire an electrician because you've got to get that. My wife got me a heater, and he's like, if you want to put that heater in, like, that's not going to work on your setup. Like, you're going to have to hire somebody to run something else. Mm. And I didn't want to do it at the time. So this fall, that's totally going to happen because I'm going to have a heated garage for next winter just so I can be motivated to do something out there.
We've got record of you saying this, so there's no backing out now.
Yeah.
You're accountable now. Hey, you can even make a YouTube video out of it and call it a business expense.
There you go. One of these days, that's another thing. Like one of these days, I need to do something like that as far as like an actual tax ID LLC. Like someday, I keep thinking I'm gonna, sell a T-shirt or have a product.
Yeah.
I've got some ideas on things like that, but my wife and I have had this conversation a lot about like, you should sell cutting boards. Like a lot of people like these and they're beautiful. Or you should sell these charcuterie boards. And I'm like, nah, I don't really want to make a cutting board over and over and over again. Like, hey, like I said, I don't like sand. I don't like sanding. I don't want to do that all the time. And I just don't want to do the same repetitive thing over and over again. So, the goal outside of just, having fun and having a record of all the stuff I've made is like, if I could somehow make enough off monetization at some point to, even make a car payment or something like, or fund my tools,
Sure.
The plywood right now, man.
Oh my gosh. Right.
Yeah. That's kind of crazy to buy any material at the moment, but
I keep seeing these jokes about like people selling stuff on Facebook Marketplace where it's 3 sheets of plywood and they're like willing to trade for a new Ford F-350. Don't try and lowball me. I know what I
got.
Yeah.
I know what I got.
Or like a little baggie of sawdust. Like, this is some nice stuff.
Yeah, it's no joke. I think 2x4s here are up to like $9 a board.
Yeah.
Which
I think it's 7 here, but
it's changed my plans. It's gotten so bad that it's changed my plans for projects because I don't want to build stuff if I'm gonna have to buy like plywood or 2x4s. So I'm like, all right, we're gonna make more projects out of hardwood and 3D printing maybe, and
MDF.
it's too expensive. Ugh.
It's funny that some of the exotics might even be cheaper than the construction materials.
They are. Walnut now here is cheaper than pine 2x4s.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm gonna make my whole house out of Paduke.
Yeah, that's been fun because I got the Paduke, the cherry, and the mahogany that I've been playing around with, trying to figure out what wood I'm gonna make this God of War cabinet out of. And I haven't worked with those species of wood before, and they've been fun to play around with and carve and sand. Sanding is interesting when it comes to Paduke, but it's been fun playing around with new species of wood.
It is. I've used mahogany quite a bit. And it's funny because like when you're first starting out, if you get a piece of wood, I have like set aside for special projects. I never usually want to touch it. I have a 8-foot board of walnut that I've had for 3 years that I still haven't used.
Oh man.
Yep.
I've got a ton still. Like I've got a buddy of mine. I made a balance beam video, which has done okay for me for doing like something that he was just like, hey, can you make this? Sure. But like when I delivered it to his house, he had like one of those old big entertainment centers, that like you don't want anymore because it's got like the space for your big boxy TV and for all your DVDs and VHS tapes that, nobody has that anymore. So it's like, he's like, I tried to sell it and nobody bought it. And then I tried to give it away just so somebody would come pick it up, and nobody come pick it up. He's like, do you want it? I think it's oak. And I looked at it and I was like, I'm pretty sure that's walnut. And I was like, yeah, I'll take it. So I took this big thing and I got home, and my neighbor's a woodworker, and I was like, is this walnut? And he's like, yep, it's definitely walnut. Because they'd stained it. Like they put some coating on it so it looked like red.
Oh,
But we flipped it over in the bottom. I was like, that's walnut. So, nobody wanted the thing, and I'm not going to use it like that. So I just cut it apart, and I've still got just tons of strips of walnut out there. And I just, to get that varnish off, I've got a planer. I just run it through the planer, and then
boom.
free walnut.
It's amazing what people throw away. I don't think they realize that, it's still good to be raw material sometimes, even if they don't like it in its current form.
Yeah.
There's so much stuff that gets thrown away around my house. And I picked up so much wood that I can't store anything else. I have so much to work through right now. And my rate of doing projects is so slow right now that I'm getting through it in a very slow manner. So I have enough for quite a while at this point.
Yeah, I got tons of offcuts. So I was trying to find like smaller projects, and I haven't released a YouTube video on this, but on my Instagram, I've shown a couple pictures of I made a Mandalorian blaster out of just various, exotic woods, but like I made the body out of walnut, and I made the handle grips out of red heart, and then some of the details like the trigger and the side pieces out of purple heart, and then the barrel out of maple. So I'm going to do a few more of those. I might do a giveaway. Depends if I run out of energy or not to make 4 or 5 of them. But like, I'm going to do some, I'll flip it up so that the body on the next one's made out of purple heart, and then the body on another one's made out of I think I got some zebra wood from the woodsmith store. So
Wow, that would be cool.
It's looking really good.
yeah, the first one I made is totally cool. Like when I put the finish on it, I was like, this is wild. But I've already I'm nitpicking like little things on each little piece though, where I'm like, I could have totally done this part better. Like, this little piece, if I would have just sanded a little bit more, rounded this off a little bit more, and some of the joinery that I did, I'm like, so it was just kind of an iteration, and feel like I kind of, learned a lot from the first one. And actually like the barrel, so I have a lathe. My wife is like the queen of finding stuff on like Facebook Marketplace. She found a lathe for me for like $85, like a year and a half ago, and I've never used it. Like, went and got it from the guy. He powered it on. He showed that it worked. I was like, awesome, I'll take it. Got it home and sat there. Just never, I was like, well, I didn't have a project. I was like, what do I do? And then finally for this, I was like, I need dowels, but I don't want to use pine. So I've got all these scraps that are small. So I just tried it. And it took it took some figuring out, because I watched some YouTube videos. I was safe. I made sure I didn't have string hooded sweatshirt or anything that was going to get caught in there. But, yeah. But honestly, this lathe, I don't think would have done that. I'll put it in the video. Like, I was editing video on this the other day, and I forgot, like, the first time I was using the chisel, and the first time I actually put it on there, like, it totally stopped. Like, it just, I put it on there, and it just totally
my gosh.
stopped. I'm like, yeah, this doesn't seem dangerous at all. Like, I could totally just grab that thing and it would stop.
Lathes scare me.
Yeah, I definitely take precaution on that, but not as bad as I use one of those chainsaw angle grinder things. Those discs that you can put on an angle grinder that look like a chainsaw. Have you seen those?
Yeah.
You can buy them for like $4 on Amazon. Something stupid cheap. And I used one of those when I did canoe paddles, and that was horrifying. Like, totally terrifying. Like, I have not used it since.
Your description of making the blaster out of exotic hardwoods kind of reminds me of what I'd heard about in the 1970s when they were doing toy modeling. They would make the models of the toys out of a hardwood and then pull molds off of that. Like the original Millennium Falcon for Star Wars was made out of mahogany and some other things. They had woodworkers that would create it, and then they had molds they would take off of it and then make the plastic injection molding.
That's great.
See, now it's backwards because I found the file on Thingiverse, 3D printed everything, and then I put it on a piece of paper and drew the outline. And then I stuck the outline onto the wood and cut it out on the bandsaw.
That's
Full
great.
The circle's
Yep,
complete.
full circle.
That would actually make like a great like story beat for the video, like going in reverse.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of that. I mean, like I said, I've started editing this thing, and I'm going through, like, I 3D printed, and then I'm just using it as templates because I wanted to make something repeatable.
Huh.
So if I ever get a CNC, then I was like, I could totally repeat all these tiny little parts over and over again. But I'm probably a ways off from that. I got to figure out the resin printer first, I think, before I go that far.
Do you have any plans for well, I was gonna say other builds, but any kind of like dream builds? Like, is there something that you've wanted to do that have not got to yet?
Oh yeah, like like you guys, it's like time. I've got a list of like 5. The people that say like you're out of ideas, it's like I'm not out of ideas. I got 5,000 things. Like, Wes, you and I talked a little bit ago about doing my boy's bedroom. Like, that's something where I'm like, not that I want to try to one up the Mario Kart bedroom, but I want to try to one up the Mario Kart bedroom. We're talking about like Legend of Zelda. My boys, we play Breath of the Wild all the time. So
Okay, when you do it, I'll do it too, and we can do our bedrooms, because my son wants a Breath of the Wild room as well, and so we can motivate each other to do it.
Oh, I've got countless ideas for that, and just it's kind of been finding the time. And I thought like this winter was going to be the time that I was going to do it, and it gets away from you. But now I'll probably start stepping into that soon. But it's like trying to figure out, I don't know which piece to do first, but then also like how to turn that into content and not do what I did with the Star Wars miter saw station and spend so many months on one thing. Like, I kind of want to split it into smaller things that are, more content ready. But I don't know. Well, we've got a playset out back, and we just power washed that thing off, an old wooden crappy thing, and I'm like, I think we should turn this into like a Legend of Zelda stable. Like, we should build the big horse head and put it on top and just go all out, add on to it.
Do it.
Totally thinking about it, but price of lumber right now, I don't know. That could be a lot.
Do it out of zebra wood because it's cheaper.
Not going that far. But I said that I wouldn't do more Star Wars stuff, but like my brother's a big maker too. We did like a little maker weekend last weekend where he's got a big shop, and we just decided to start a project, and then we were going to try to get it done in 2 days, and that did not happen at all. The plan was to build R2-D2 and Chopper out of wood and make them into like shop carts.
Simple project, something handy.
That's a cool idea.
It is
a good use of Chopper.
It's a cool idea until you realize that building a big cylinder out of wood is really hard. Like, really hard. Like, I thought this is why people make shop furniture that is squares and rectangles, like when you have to figure out how to make him an oval, and we've got MDF and we had like 1/8 inch hardboard. We spent by the end of Saturday night, we quit at like 9 o'clock, and I was exhausted. We had one of them where we basically had a skeleton, and we had the back half of him wrapped. We didn't figure out how to make a drawer or the cabinet doors in the front or the head or anything. I mean, eventually I think it'll be cool. Like, the next day we got the second one built basically to the same point of the first one, and we got drawers built, but we still got to figure out how to wrap the drawers so that they close and it looks flush, and cabinet doors that'll open. And we haven't even started the heads. Like, we bought 2 basically like Lazy Susan spinners so that we could have the heads rotate and swivel. But we did not get that far at all. I mean, it looks cool, and they're big. I mean, they're going to be, I think, 36 inches tall
Wow.
when we get them done, and they're about 23 to 24 inches in diameter. So, and they're made out of mostly MDF. Like, they're heavy. They weigh a ton.
Wow.
But I don't know when we're going to
MDF's
finish that.
heavy. I can't wait to see those when they're done.
Yeah, we've got a few, like I think I posted one progress pic on the Instagram channel, but they got a ways to go. And how do you make it? Like, my brother, he got to the point where he's like, I'm just going to 3D print the head, dude. I don't care. It's like, I'm done making
Yeah, yeah, sure.
Well, we said, like, he's keeping one and I'm keeping the other. And he's going to keep the R2 and I'm going to keep the chopper version. And he's like, I'm like, well, what are you going to use this for? Do you want to have the top be functional? And all? He's like, no, I'm going to make a tray so that he can carry drinks around, like in Return of the Jedi. My plan for mine was to have, since Chopper's kind of got a flat head, mine's going to be totally level with, if I can do math properly, it should be level with my miter saw station, so I can set him next to it and then use him as kind of the, whenever I want to cut long boards, then I can set the boards on top of his head. And then I'll probably attach like, my angle grinder or something like that on the backside of his head so that then I can spin it,
That's awesome.
That's cool. It's like a shop helper.
Yeah. And I might, 3D print that, like, components for his legs and his body, but a lot of it I might just bandsaw and paint,
Sounds
glue,
cool.
and nail on.
You do some LEDs or something in there somehow?
There's another,
Yeah.
that's
All
another
kinds of
hurdle
levels,
I have
right?
to jump
Yeah.
at some point in my life.
Electronics.
Wes, you started trying to teach me a little bit about how to use these things, but
That's right, yeah.
I got
You
as
made
far
some
as
progress, though. You made progress.
I bought a kit. I have some lights. What's funny, my brother will help with that stuff too, though, because he's been big into. I mean, he's done Halloween stuff for years. Like, he used to have a huge yard hunt when he lived up in Urbandale, suburb of Des Moines, and he'd get like thousands of people that go through there in 3 days. Like, we did a ton of work where we'd set all this up, and none of it was like waterproof. So we would set it up on Friday and just pray that it wouldn't rain, and it would be up Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Excuse me. And he would raise money for charity. It's not Wounded Warriors, but Sentinels of Freedom. It's other kind of Wounded Warriors type charity that he would raise money for and give all that to. But he'd get thousands of people going through there because his setup is just immaculate. So when it comes to things like lights and animatronics and things like that, like, he's a good resource for that. I am not. Last weekend we were building the robots. Me and my buddy were trying to cut wood and figure out angles and figure out how to find the center of a freaking circle. And he's over there like soldering lights together. He's like, this is going to be R2's eye eventually.
So is there? Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say that's awesome. I'm not a fan of Chopper personally. My least favorite droid in all of Star Wars, but still.
I like Rebels in general. I love the Rebels cartoon. So
Can't argue with you there.
So are you ready for the next part, Wes? Or
Yeah,
You got
well, I was
anything
just going to add, do you have any plans for May the 4th, since a lot of your stuff is Star Wars related? Did you have a build you're going to release on that day, or just how do you celebrate May the 4th?
yeah, I'm gonna try really hard to get the little Mandalorian blaster done by then. And then if I announce, that I'm gonna do a giveaway, then
That's correct, yeah.
That'll kind of push me to actually complete the rest of them.
I'll be the first to sign up.
There you go. I've bandsawed out like 5 more that are just like the body. So I do have them sitting in the shop, but it's just all the other. I've got to get the lathe back out and get everything set back up and figure out how to cut and sand everything else. But
Nice.
yeah, my hope is to give away at least a couple, like give away one on the YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Give away one on the Instagram channel. I might even do like a charity fundraiser with another one too if I make like 5 of them.
Nice.
I'm keeping the first one. But
Yeah, that one's beautiful. We got to. Nice. That'd be a good one.
yeah, thanks.
what have you guys been geeking out about lately?
Our Patreon members.
Oh yeah? What about them?
Yeah?
Donovan?
We do? I'm not trying to segue you into anything or anything.
All right. Well, on that note, let's thank our patrons over at patreon.com/MakerGeeks for their support for this channel. That was an immaculate segue. Especially our top patrons, Square Splinter, Clinton from C3D Prop Shop, and Jordan Rimple. Thank you guys so much for your support and all of our patrons. We definitely could not do this without you. We have some things coming up that would not be possible without your support, and we appreciate you.
So now, what are you guys geeking out about this week? Aside from our patrons.
Jeez.
Wes, what are you geeking out about? I'm curious because I totally cut you off.
I love how you shove it back to him instead of...
Well, let's see. I would say my patrons. No. That's a good question. We just finished a couple things. We just finished Harry Potter movies for the first time. I had never seen all of them. Over the last 3 months, honestly, I'd never seen one in its entirety. So over the last 3 months, we've watched all of them with the kids and Catherine as well, and so I can say I finished them.
And
I'm wondering if you changed your perception of the franchise.
Overall, I enjoyed them. I definitely had some movies that I like more than others. My favorite one was the third one, Prisoner of Azkaban, just because I'm a sucker for anything time travel, and I always like different mechanics and stuff, especially like loop time travel episodes. I always like that kind of stuff, cause and effect, and all those kinds of interesting paradoxes and whatnot. So I like that one. A couple of the other ones I like components of them, but there were certain times where just things didn't really make a lot of sense. Either like Harry had like inconsistent power like levels between movies, and I don't know, it was just different things. Like I can't remember them off the top of my head, but there was just certain moments like, why did you do that? That you in this other thing you could have done this, and I was just, and some of the editing was a little choppy in a couple of the different movies, but some of the later movies, like the two-parter at the end, was pretty good, as far as like wrapping things up, I thought. And I'm sure there's a lot of stuff that was in the book, but I'm not going to read the books. I don't really read fiction, so I'm taking those as they are. And I don't think it's fair to the movies that you have prerequisites where you have to read the books to enjoy them more than them on their surface. So that's just how I feel, but. I'd watch them again, I think, if pressured, and if I had a lot of
pressured.
if I was able to stay awake. So there were some parts that I was a little dozing off, but I don't think that affected my understanding of things that were happening. But it's just, I'll have to do like a spoiler cast per episode or something, or per movie, just to recap. What are you guys' favorites as far as movies? Is that one a good one? Is that a popular choice that I made, or no?
You talk about like out of the 7 movies?
Yeah.
It's tough. I've read all the books twice, so when I see the movies, there's no way for me to see the movie without also making a connection to the book. So I can't comment on it the same way, because my favorite book is 4, but my favorite movie is 6.
Goblet of Fire and...
So the Half-Blood Prince is my favorite movie. Yeah, it's hard to even make it a comparison, just because you can't eliminate the knowledge you already have.
Sure.
That kind of supports what you're seeing in the film. The films have cut so much, and it's arguable whether or not they cut the right things. They move things around. Things are told in a little bit of different order in the movies. So you can't even really get an honest response from somebody that has read the books and seen the movies because
I can
they can't experience it the same way
Mhm.
as you did.
Yeah, I would. This is funny because this was actually going to be my pick for what I'm geeking out about too. Yeah, swear to God. My kids and we have been reading the books at night every night, and then when we get done with one, we'll watch the movie.
We do that with my daughter.
We just watched Prisoner of Azkaban the other night. We just finished it Monday night. So yeah, like how I don't know. I'm a big fan, so I'm probably biased, but I hadn't seen this movie though probably since because I read all the books 15 years ago or something like that. When my wife and I were living in an apartment, I think I read them all because she'd already read them. But I watched that movie back then, and I don't think I'd seen it since. So I kind of totally forgot about it until we read the book the last month and a half, whatever. And then watching the movie, I was like, man, like the third one is where it really gets good. Like the first two,
They're kind of kiddie. That's why.
yeah, totally. The third one is where it gets a little bit darker, but like the production value of the movie got a lot better.
They got a new director.
Yeah, we got a new Dumbledore. Like, or maybe he came in the second one. I don't know.
No,
But-
third one.
Sounds
Third
like
was
one.
it the third one?
Yep.
But I don't. But Goblet of Fire is also right up there for me. Other than the last one, like that's the one thing. Like, yeah, spoiler, won't give away the end, but like obviously, Game of Thrones has proved, and other things have proved. Like it's really hard to stick the landing on these things, and like they did. Like the last book is amazing. The last book is totally awesome, and the movie too. Even both parts, I thought, were just fantastic. But it's fun watching these with my kids now. They're 7. I have twin boys that are 7. I don't know if I said that earlier, but it's kind of funny when the movie ended. We kind of looked at each other, and Brooks was kind of saying like, "They didn't do this," and I was like, "All right." We just kind of went through the list. Like, what else did they miss? Like, what else did they leave out?
So have you read like The Cursed Child?
Yeah, you have to short it up. What's that?
Have you read The Cursed Child?
I have not.
I haven't read it either.
Is it awesome?
Very good. Yeah. I mean, it is a completely different format because it's a stage play.
Yeah.
And so you read it like a stage play with direction and like Hermione, her text, Ron, his text, that kind of thing. But even with that, it's written well enough that you don't need all the extra stuff to like be able to see everything that's going on in the book. I enjoyed it. I liked it.
I haven't been able to bring myself to read it yet, but I'm kind of annoyed that it just wasn't written as standard novel. I mean, I'm sure that once I've read into it enough, I would kind of make the adjustment mentally as I'm reading it. But I guess conceptually, I have an issue with it.
Yeah. I mean, I can understand why people don't like it, and I can understand that they're never going to make a movie out of it. So as much as I want them to, they just won't. And with Alan Rickman being gone and him being like one of the central characters in the book, you can't. You can't replace Alan Rickman. So they're never going to make the movie. I really like Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them because Newt is like one of my favorite male characters in like all of filmography. So Harry Potter's where it's at. I like Harry Potter.
I read a rumor, although it's probably just a rumor, that Adam Driver was possibly being considered for a young Snape.
Huh.
It's probably just Hollywood rumor stuff, but it'd be interesting.
They're totally going to make more though. Like
yeah,
all of these, Disney Plus, Netflix, Amazon with The Hobbit, like they've all got their franchise thing that's got to be their cash cow. Disney's got several, obviously, but like they're gonna make more. Like this is totally coming, and it's not just they're gonna be like 4 more.
There's gonna be 5
Fantastic Beasts.
Yeah, so there's 3 more.
Oh wow!
And then who knows after that?
they've already run into trouble because they have to recast Johnny Depp's part. Actually, they did
Yeah,
recast
with Maz Mikkelsen.
Mads Mikkelsen. Yeah.
Michelson, yeah.
Oh well, they could have done worse, I guess, if they had to recast. So, what are you geeking about, Donovan?
I'm geeking out about epoxy. This stupid God of War game has put so many ideas in my head for stuff that I want to make. Dang it. And one of them is trying to figure out how to make the axe in a way that other people haven't already done. Because Man at Arms is already like blacksmith forged a real one, and Odin Makes has made like an LED light up one, and other people have done like similar ones to those two. And I was like, well, how can I make it in a way that's like unique to me that somebody else hasn't already done? And since glow epoxy seems to be one of my things, because I have a couple other projects that have used glow epoxy, I'm like, well, how can I make it out of glow epoxy? Because the axe glows. Maybe I can do it.
Sounds like another carving project.
Oh my gosh. And so I've been watching videos about like molds and pouring molds and epoxy, and I'm trying to figure out exactly, if I were to do this, how would I do it? And it's been interesting. Epoxy is a fun product to work with if you know what you're doing, because there's so much you can do with it. And Alumilite Co. and Total Boat, I keep seeing their stuff everywhere just because people keep making awesome stuff with them. So I've been kind of geeking out about epoxy and the process, and everything that you can make with it.
Cool. I'm geeking out about a cheesy show on Disney Plus called Mighty Ducks Game Changers. It's almost kind of like a guilty pleasure that I enjoyed the Mighty Ducks movies back in the day, and my family and I just rewatched all of them within the last 6 months. And then Disney Plus, because they're doing the Cobra Kai thing, going back into the past and continuing past series, which this is going to be the way things go from now on. It's not going to be a sequel, but finding ways to continue old stories. But it's fun, it's cheesy, but the kids are enjoying it. We're enjoying watching it as a family, and just sometimes it's nice watching something that isn't too heavy-handed or too serious at times. So just some mild cheesy entertainment. Some days some weeks it's kind of welcome. And sometimes
have you been watching a lot of heavy-handed stuff lately?
I mean, the nature of my job, I have to deal with a lot of, stuff I'm teaching right now. We're talking about, I'm not even going to mention it on air. It's not bad, just really heavy-handed stuff, dealing with the law and legal stuff and, current events. So, yeah, having some kind of offset of that is nice. And I think my kids kind of like it, too, because we'll watch Falcon and Winter Soldier, which, is a little bit heavy-handed and a little bit serious. And then watching something dumb like the Mighty Ducks, it's a nice kind of like, let's laugh at something done before bed and not think about,
Flag smashers,
potential terrorist groups and things like that. So that's what I'm geeking out about. And we would love to know what all of you are geeking out about. And you can do that by going to our website on the contact page, and you can send us a message. Let us know what you'd like to hear on the show, or even suggestions of topics right there on the contact page. Homepage of the site, you can listen to all of our past episodes right there on makinggeeks.com.
And if you want to see what we're geeking out individually, or we're making, or we're doing, whatever, we all have social media that you can come follow us on. So if you want to follow Grant, you can follow him at Dadcrafted, correct?
Yeah, on Instagram, I think that's dad_crafted, but yeah, you'll find it.
Yeah. And your website is it
Dadcrafted.com.
Yep. Are you on TikTok or like anything else?
No. Twitter.
You answered that pretty quick. No. But yeah, so if you want to see his stuff, go check him out. Sean, you can find over at Geek Builders. Wes, find it Geeksmithing. And me, you can find at Once Upon a Workbench.
Dude,
Well, I'd like to thank all of our guests for hanging out with all of our listeners for hanging out with us in the chat. It always makes the show a little bit more enjoyable, and we have kind of a constant flow of other comments and reactions. And we'd also like to thank you, Grant, for coming on the show and sharing your evening with us.
Yeah.
You can find new episodes of this. Sorry, go ahead.
No, just thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah. And we'll have you back next week as well. So we'll dive in a little bit more for anything we might have missed this week. And remember, everybody, we have new episodes that come out every Saturday morning on your favorite podcast player of choice. So from us to all of you, have a fantastic week.
see you guys.
Later.
See ya.
Did we miss something, Wes?
Did Grant say what he was geeking out about?
Yeah, it was the Harry Potter stuff too.
Okay.
Yeah, he jumped on the same thing.
Got it.
Yeah, that's seriously what I had.
Got it.
You stole mine. Of all the things.
I thought we were going to talk about Shang-Chi, but I guess we can do that next week. The trailer came out.
Oh, yeah.
That's
awesome.
what I forgot to write down for mine. Well, it'll kind of be a little bit more on brand next week. It'll be all Marvel again.
Watch Mortal Kombat.
Comes out tomorrow, I think.
Yeah.
Today? Tomorrow?
Tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow.
Yep. I'll watch it.
Do you guys want to talk about it or just watch it?